Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming out tonight. We are back in the Campbell Center for our this speaker's a little funky. For our beginning of our program meetings going until May, except we won't have one in December. We also have a Zoom audience tuning in. We're really happy to see a group here to listen to our speaker tonight, Barb Bryson, about Habitat Haven, which has been a wildly successful program, and people are very enthusiastic about it. So, and as are we. So I just have a couple of announcements, and we're also going to do our board elections tonight. So that's something that y'all can look forward to. And the one thing I did want to mention is we still are having Swifts at Agate Hall Chimney. If you haven't been over there, you really should stop by because they're putting on a really good show this year. I think last week it wasn't a Swift event, but my husband and I went, and there were also like 140 people there watching. But there were about 4,500 birds that went into the chimney. And so it's, it's a big, wonderful event. If you've never been there, don't miss it if you have an opportunity to go. It's right on campus across from the Hayward Field. And say what? And just a half a block from Prince Puckler Ice Cream. In fact, when we left last week, after all the Swifts went in and everything, we drove home by Prince Puckler's, and the line was out the door. So they love the Swifts too. So anyway, and then the other thing I wanted to talk about, we're going to have Barb. Did you want to make an announcement before you begin, or good? No. Okay. Okay. And so I am going to announce the board elections. And so you might have become aware that we are still have the moniker of Lane County Audubon Society for the purpose of banking and checks and our relationship with National Audubon. But we've adopted the new name via a vote and participation from members of Coast to Cascades Bird Alliance. And that's what many other chapters in the Audubon chapter network have done. But it doesn't divorce us from anything that we've done in the past. And because our work has always been very productive and inclusive and trying to do the best work we can. And so that will all continue, and it won't change anything in that regard. So anyway, the elections tonight are for anybody who's an Audubon member or a Coast to Cascades Bird Alliance member. So if you're not yet a member, you're not supposed to vote, but we're not going to get your card or anything like that. So I just wanted to make sure people know that. So according to our Constitution and bylaws, Article 3, Section 2, our board of directors consists of up to 9 members. The nomination committee presents a slate of 9 prospective board members, although our slate is not 9 at this point in time. And so the Coast to Cascades Bird Alliance / Lane County Audubon Society members present at this meeting, both in person and on Zoom, will elect our board of directors. Once the board is elected, then the board elects the officers and the members to serve their terms. So we have several people here tonight that are on the slate. So I'm going to announce those names. You can stand if you want to. Barb Bryson, Tammy Ganshert, Cecilia Hagen, Ron Rentschler, Debbie Schlanoff, Mavis Souls, and Tammy Stark. I don't think Tammy's here. So this is the slate of candidates for our board. And I will entertain a motion from one of you members. Do I hear a motion to accept this slate of candidates? Connie has a motion. Thank you. And a second has been accepted. So it has been moved and seconded that the slate of nominees be elected. Only the members in the room can vote, or members on Zoom. So those in favor say aye. Any opposed? I hear nothing, so the motion passes. Congratulations and thank you. All right, so I think our next, Dennis?
Good evening, everyone. I have the privilege of introducing speakers and also telling you about speakers that are coming up. And we have two of them coming up in the month of October. So I want to tell you about those first. First, at the end of October, on October 28th, right here, we're going to have Forrest Tomlinson again. And those of you who remember who were here last year, actually it was in September last year, Forrest gave a talk about his trip to Colombia. And if you remember, he had incredible videos and audio. You had the sounds of the birds and all kinds of things, plus fantastic still pictures and a great narrative. He just makes you feel like you're right there with him. So this time, he's going to take us to the South Pacific. He's going to take us to Australia and to these weird islands north of Australia, including New Caledonia. And so I'm real excited about that. So we're going to have that right here, October 28th. And then we're going to have a very special Zoom-only meeting on October 14th. That's also a Tuesday. We try to have our meetings on Tuesdays, and this is going to be 7 o'clock on Tuesday, October 14th. And we're going to have a very special guest named David Lucas. Now, I got to meet David Lucas because he is a friend of Charlie Quinn. And Charlie told me about him, and then I kind of did some vetting. I looked at what David Lucas does, and I looked at a couple of his videos, and this guy is really good. He's going to talk about bird song, and he has a really amazing way of explaining why birds are singing, what kind of songs they're using, all the different kind of vocalizations that they have. And he's just a great speaker and will explain things in a way that are, I thought, very easy to understand. And you may not walk away knowing all the sounds of the birds, but you'll have a much better idea of the variety of songs and vocalizations that birds have and what they could possibly mean, even if you don't remember the exact ones that he talks about. So that's all on Zoom. You can sit at home, put your feet up, and watch this program. 7 o'clock on October 14th, and the Zoom link will be available on the Bird Alliance website. And I'll be sending it out to all of the Wednesday birders and all the people on the Lane County Bird distribution list. Now we're going to get to tonight. Tonight we have a speaker that I have known for quite a while, actually, but I didn't realize all of this stuff about native plants until more recently. I started going out to the Doak Creek Native Plant Nursery, I think in December or November, I can't remember, and I bought a bunch of plants then. And Tim Griffith, who has one of those wonderful Habitat Haven gardens, he came with me and we bought all kinds of stuff. And I got all this stuff in my backyard and I got real excited about it. And I had a lot of things planted and they came up this spring and it was just beautiful. I bought a monkey flower plant from Rich Hoyer, and he has kind of the gold standard Habitat Haven yard. And that plant started blooming, I think, in June, and it's still blooming, and I still have hummingbirds coming to it. So I got real excited about this. And so I thought, well, you all are probably excited about this too. And so I contacted Barbara and I said, Barbara, would you do a program for us? And she agreed to do it. And so I'm just real excited to have her here tonight and to learn more about these wonderful plants and how to do it and how Habitat Haven works. So let's please give a nice warm welcome to Barbara Bryson.
Thanks, Dennis. So why haven't you certified yet?
I'm not a certifiable person.
Some people might argue with that. Hi, This is a treat for me. There's nothing I like talking about more than my grandson than native plants and habitat. So you're all settled in for like a few hours, I hope. Right, well, this program started 14 months ago with a grant. Can you hear me in the back? Okay, from Upper Willamette, their logo's on the bottom left, and they renewed their grant this year. And we started out thinking that we might do 10 houses in the first year, and we did 60. And now we have about 180 people signed up. This is a community that seems to want to do things for nature and birds, which is lovely. And for me, it started with a bird. A lot of good journeys start with a bird and a book. This is a little ruby crowned kinglet that shows up in the winter, and it was there in the pandemic on top of the feeder pole, and it liked the, my husband had installed a little solar collector that was about this big, and it spent hours in front of that thing, chasing its own reflection and fighting with it. And about that time I read Tim Beatley's book, Bird Friendly Cities. And I thought, I want to get on the Audubon board and do something about bird friendly cities. And I discovered that Debbie Schlenoff had already really gotten a good hold on that. So then I read Douglas Ptolemy's book, Nature's Best Hope, and I kind of knew what I wanted to do. And with the board's support, we started Habitat Haven. I highly recommend this book. It turned my gardening on its head completely. I realized I need to stop gardening just for pretty things and have it matter. And he tells you a lot about why it matters. About 20% of our households get certified. So I'm going to go through some of the problems that we're attempting to face with this program, why it matters and what we can do about it. And then I'll go through some of the steps of the program and show you some examples. So why are we doing this? Well, birds matter. And when you do something, some action, it gives you hope. We're saving resources, and obviously it can be less work than mowing and mowing and mowing. So we want to protect birds and wildlife and give them zones that they can travel through in our community. So if a bird is up on Skinner's Butte and it has to make it to Spencer's Butte, is it going to have places to go where there's everything that it needs? We also connect people to nature. Birdsong helps us, and being in nature helps us. It actually helps us heal. There's a physician who studies this, and people recover from gallbladder surgery faster if they can see nature while they're healing. So the stepping stones are what we hope to be able to do. We can't really be the big corridor. That would be like the Ridgeline Trail, I imagine. But we can be the stepping stones that give wildlife a safe passage. We want to increase biodiversity because it's declining. We want to create healthy soil, reduce runoff, and a lot of our trees and native shrubs and plants do that much better than lawn. We want to eliminate pesticides and conserve water. So if you're a towhee and you're flying over Eugene and you look down and you see lawns, are you going to land on a lawn if you're a towhee? No. What does a towhee want? Are there any Monty Python fans? Shrubbery. Yes, give him a gold star. They want shrubbery. So it's really important to get that dense planting, and they want leaf mold on the ground because they like to kick it back and forth and look for yummy things. It's one of my favorite birds. So lawn is pretty homogeneous, so biodiversity really declines. We have up to 50 million acres of lawn in the US, and this was from 2005. So I imagine it's quite a bit more now. 26 plus million tons of air pollution, and we use a third of all of our water. And our water comes out of the Mackenzie. It's the aquifers, it's drinking water. So that's kind of sad. This is a study called Humanity for Habitat. It's a National Forest Service study. And they looked at suburban and urban lawns and found that, surprisingly, if you mow your lawn every 2 weeks, you have more insects than if you let it get taller. But if you really want to do the best thing, you can, oh, this is okay. A little taller grass, you get more bugs. If you reduce the lawn by making a bed that's curved and planting it with shrubs, you get more diversity. And then you can scale it up. You can make even deeper beds and biodiversity increases. You probably know about pesticides. You've heard of neonics, I imagine, everybody. It's good to check the label on plants, because if there are neonics on that plant and a bee lands on it or a butterfly, they can be killed from that. And of course, rodenticides are pretty awful. Yeah. And herbicides decrease pollination. They actually interfere with the bees and their ability to pollinate. Invasive plants are another thing that we try to tackle in this program. And boy, I'm glad I don't have a yard like that, but I have seen some that are pretty bad. A lot of those are pretty common, the ones on the left. I imagine you're familiar with these things. I don't know about you, but I don't have that much fun when I pull ivy. We use the Emerald Native Plant Society invasive list. And invasive.org is a good place to look to verify what something is. Light pollution is something else we talk about because it disorients pollinators and birds. On the left, on the top, is the late 1950s. And then the middle 1970s. So you can see the increase in light pollution, 1997 and then 2025. It's amazing that we can see any stars. And there's no real evidence that having lights on keeps us safe. Motion sensor lighting does a great job. It only comes on when there's movement. So that's a good solution. And if you can use light that's more kind of amberish, kind of yellow, warmer hues, that also helps. So the two birds on this slide are strategy species. And the reason is that they've lost so much habitat. If you can leave a snag when you cut a tree down, you will be very happy. In a few years, you'll get woodpeckers. We have pileatids in our yard now because so many of our Douglas fir trees are dying. We're having to top them, cut them, not top them, but this is a really interesting slide. I don't do too many slides, but this one's important. This is a study by Douglas Ptolemy and Desiree Narango. They studied chickadees and how many of them survive in urban and suburban yards where there are non-native plants or native plants. And you can see to get to 2 fledged young, which is a replacement number, and you go down here and look, what's the percentage of non-native plants that has to be present to allow for 2 birds to survive? About 20%. Oops. That's surprising, but the reason really makes sense. It's because plants and insects evolve together over millions of years, and birds also. So they're all linked. Birds need native insects to feed their babies. And native insects prefer native plants. So when you get native plants and you see them being eaten, celebrate. It's a good thing. So we want beauty that's meaningful, and healthy soil and water improves survival of pollinators and birds. And of course, shade is becoming really critical. Friends of Trees is such a great organization. They're planting everywhere, and you can get free trees from them. Also, the more birds you have and the more native plants and beauty, the higher your property values. We help engage the community with nature, and we get functional ecosystem services when we plant native plants and have native insects. And that's everything from healthy soil to pollination. I don't know if you know this, but all of these things pollinate, even the wasps, yellow jackets, flies. There's some pretty interesting looking insects on here. And insects pollinate 90% of our flowering plants. These are pollinators too. Someone was sure that the swifts were actually bats. Several people have commented about that. No. This is maybe a little bit busy, but if you want to have caterpillars and butterflies, then you need to plant not just nectar plants, but host plants. Like monarchs need milkweed. All the butterfly species and moth species have host plants, and many of them are native plants. Even ground strawberries, the native strawberries, kinnikinnick, the trees that are mentioned up here. Oh, no trees mentioned here. Serviceberry, our big leaf maple, many of our butterflies need these host plants. So we want our crops to be pollinated, so we need to take care of these little native bees. How to participate? Okay. I think this is out of order a little bit, but at the end, there will be a QR code if you want to enroll. It's really easy. We come and we spend an hour with you and talk with you about what you want and see where and which native plants would work. And then you get a report, personalized report that's written along with a lot of resources. This is one of our, this is Greg. He's actually an independent contractor with us. So this is what we look for: canopy layers, wildlife stewardship, stormwater management, invasive plants, pesticide reduction, and then if you are really going for it, some education and volunteerism. There's 3 levels: silver, gold, and platinum. So naturescaping is kind of like what nature does. If you go out in the woods and you see a Douglas fir tree and then some vine maples under it, and then ferns and snowberry, and the ground cover might be Vancouveria, you know, just a lush layering of plants. And no bark mulch. Don't see much bark mulch if you go on the Ridgeline Trail. So in this slide, you're seeing some kinnikinnick, some Pacific wax myrtle, a viburnum, and a deer fern, I think. Ground cover can be native wild strawberries or kinnikinnick. Sword ferns are fantastic. They tolerate drought amazingly well. And Oregon grape. feeds, it's one of the earliest to flower, so it feeds pollinators in February. Of course, red flowering currant. And hairy manzanita is the only true native manzanita, I think. There's lots of hybrids, and we don't know if they really serve the same ecological purpose. And osoberry, these are small trees that get up to 30 feet. Serviceberry is a beautiful tree. They import it in England. Here, if you hire a typical landscaper, they won't know what a serviceberry is, but it's a beautiful tree. Feeds birds. And of course, the big trees. This is one of our enrollees. They planted a white oak. And on the left, some of my favorite plants are bunch grasses. The seed heads are beautiful. And there's some beach daisy in there. On the left is some rosy checker mallow with some bunch grass. I think it's Romer's fescue, maybe, might be prairie June grass. They're just messy people. No, it's one of the ways to create habitat. It helps the soil stay moist. It gives places to hide for little invertebrates and reptiles and amphibians. Breaks down and feeds the soil. So wildlife stewardship, we look for water features, motion sensor lighting. Dead snags are fantastic. Can't say enough about dead snags. Leave your leaves and stems as much as possible. Nest boxes have to be cleaned like at least once a year. Muddling basins. Anybody know what a muddling basin is? It's a shallow dish that you put rocks and soil in and a little bit of water, and the butterflies get some nutrition from that and also water. Now, I've tried it and I've never seen a butterfly, but maybe they come when I'm not looking.
I don't know what it does, snag is.
Oh, I'm sorry. What the woodpecker is on. I don't know what kind of woodpecker that is. I don't think it's a native. Red-bellied sapsucker? Just a red-bellied woodpecker. Okay, not just. No, they're not. Okay. So a dead snag is a tree that's either died on its own, or when you cut it tall. So there's a 10 to 15 or 20 foot standing dead tree that will rot and become habitat. Wildflowers are part of the picture. They're, yeah, and logs and wood. Also, rock piles are fantastic. Oh, has anybody heard of a hibernaculum? I hadn't either until one of our participants made one. It's underground and it's designed to, it has a little piping and has an entrance and exit, and amphibians and reptiles can hibernate in there. Great project for a school-age child, I would think, and up through high school, adults too. Water is so important, and in the winter, especially in the ice storms, having heated water can save birds. Bees need water too. You probably know that, but they will drown in any deep water. So they fly into swimming pools and die. But if you provide little shallow dishes with rocks in it, they can get water. Most of our native bees are little solitary ground nesting bees. Isn't that an adorable creature? Some of them only go about 50 yards from their nesting cavity to flowers. Honeybees can travel a couple of miles. Honeybees are not native, that's right. So our native ground nesting bees, which are undeniably adorable, cannot crawl through bark mulch to make their little holes in the ground. So it's good if you can leave some areas of bare soil. They aren't aggressive either, unless you squish them in your fingers, they will sting you then, but they're very non-aggressive because they don't have a hive to defend. Rock piles and brush piles can be really helpful habitat. On the right, you probably can't see it, but there is a fox in there. So I wouldn't expect anybody in the room to have a brush pile that big, unless you have a lot of property. And on the left is a little newt or salamander in some rocks. Cats are a big factor, controversial. Catios are a great help, I think. And they don't have to be fancy. My husband built one that looks kind of like that, and our cat loves it. There are also these, collars and bibs that you can put on that are brightly colored that seem to reduce predation, but they're not a panacea. They help, but really cats do so much damage, not just to birds, but 6 to 22 billion mammals every year in the United States. Window collisions, another topic that we get into. On the left is our kitchen window, and you can see how much of a reflection there is from the outside. I put up the Acopian, these are called Acopian bird savers, these paracord strips, and they were too far apart. The person who designed it says 4 inches, but they really should be maybe 2 or 3. So I had to put some iridescent decals on the window. On the right is Feather Friendly. They make a product that is for commercial, and they also make a product for residential use.
Proud of residential word, it's on the back table.
Oh, good.
For my presence.
Oh, did you install it at your house?
I did, right after.
Oh, great. Okay, very good. I just have this in here for people who don't know. If you do find an injured bird, or sick, or just not functioning right, you don't want to give it food or water. You can actually drown a bird by trying to give it water. And you can call Chintamini or Cascades Raptor Center. They are so helpful. And they're right here. They may not take every patient, everything that you get that they get a call about, but they're very good at giving advice. Rain gardens are great. They're a little bit complex. So I'd recommend getting help if you want to do that, but they're a good way to prevent runoff. This is my yard, my husband's and my home, and we started with turf grass and just mowed it really close to the ground, and then sheet mulch. So we put down cardboard, and on one side we added wood chips. On this side we added compost and soil, I think a mixture of both. On top, yeah, to help break down the cardboard. And this is about 1.5 years afterwards. We've got a ponderosa pine, some blanket flower, Oregon sunshine, a manzanita, some iris, Pacific wax myrtle back in there. It's really taking off. And I think that's now, close to now. It's really just filling in. There's some evergreen huckleberry that gets quite a bit of sun, and it's really happy. Some viburnum ellipticum, Pacific wax myrtle, which is native to the coast, but I love it. Native strawberry on the ground. You can do a lot with a small piece of property, though. So clay soil, a lot of us have clay soil and we tend to want to add a lot of stuff, just dig in gallons of compost, but that can backfire. The clay doesn't really know how to break down all of that organic matter, so it's really good to just put it on the surface. And you don't want to till or dig clay when it's wet. Tilling kind of kills the soil organisms. Soil is living. Has anybody watched Kiss the Ground? It's a documentary. Anybody? Yeah, it's quite amazing. It's on YouTube or Netflix. And native plants are easy to overwater. They really don't need much except for the first few years. They're adapted to our climate. Even though our climate is changing, they still do better than a lot of ornamental plants. And you do want to mulch. You don't want to fertilize native plants. They tend to get lanky and flop over. It's good to start with something like, where do I want a path? If you're looking at a blank area, where do you want to walk? Do you want a place to sit? That kind of thing. Some more examples of canopy layers. Those are all native plants. Our bunch grasses are beautiful. The roots are about 2.5 feet deep. So they hold on to water much better than turf grass, which is about 3 inches deep. Turf grass is really impermeable and causes a lot of runoff, especially, you know, with all the fertilizer and chemicals that we tend to put on lawn. Not everybody does that, but a lot of people do. It just washes down into our creeks and rivers. We talked about that native plants co-evolved with insects and they're better adapted to our climate. That is Farewell to Spring in the front and goldenrod. This is one of the best pollinating plants. This is a QR code to the best plants for native bees. If anybody wants to take a shot of that, you're welcome to. Douglas asters, poppies, Farewell to Spring, this whole list. You may not find these in our local nurseries. You may have to go to the native plant nurseries. And we have one that's open year round, and that's Doak Creek Nursery. I'm guessing a lot of you have been out there.
There's a couple of local places that sell Willamette Valley seeds. You know, Larkia and a lot of that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
starting from seeds is.
It can be if you sow them in the winter and just leave them outside, a lot of them will just come up beautifully. It's
Sometimes.
yeah. I haven't had 100% success, believe me. Cultivars can be tricky because some of them don't make any pollen, especially the really double, triple flowers. They have no ecological benefit.
Cultivars?
A cultivar is a native plant that has been bred. What is a cultivar was the question. So plants can be hybridized, and when they're hybridized and you go to buy them, they will have a name in quotation marks like yarrow, heavenly sunset or something. Yeah, native plants don't have that. It's good to plant in kind of groupings so that pollinators can find things more easily instead of one plant scattered here and there. If you can plant in drifts as much as possible. Here's a before and after. Yeah, it's filled in quite a bit since then too. This is a couple of years ago. This is another couple. Strata's yard, started with lawn. They put in a path and lots of native plants. And this is what it looked like the following summer. Really filled in with a lot of life. This is another yard that was done recently. This person took out, this was all lawn, took out a chunk, made a nice curved bed. Curves look more natural than straight lines. And then she put in some native plants. Janet and Alan have a platinum certified yard, but you don't get to see it unless you come to our spring yard tour next spring. He used to run his own landscaping business, a native plant business, and he's one of our volunteers. Really amazing knowledge. We use Oregon Flora a lot to look up, is this native? And where is it native? Because it shows you exactly on the map if something is native to the South Willamette Valley or not. And we really try to encourage plants from this area. It's a little controversial though, because with climate change, our plants may be needing to tolerate more heat. And so assisted migration is a concept. It's just all, no one really knows the right answer. You know, we're just doing the best we can. This is a fantastic book, Real Gardens Grow Natives. And on the top, if you like QR codes, that will give you a link to Douglas Ptolemy's Homegrown National Park videos, which are, he's just a great speaker, and he is coming to Eugene in January 23rd. Upper Willamette Soil and Water is bringing Douglas Ptolemy here. So
Here?
to Eugene,
No, but where?
not right here.
Where?
I don't think they've quite decided.
It'll be big.
I hope it'll be big enough, yeah. Does anybody want time to get that on their phone? You can also just look him up. Local native plant nurseries and others. Willamette Wildlings is a great source for seed. They do also, I've called them and said, could I get 20 plugs of something? Plugs being little tiny plants, and they will do that. They're very accommodating.
They're doing it out of College Grove or someplace, aren't they? We talked about it a year ago.
Mitch, do you remember where they are?
No.
Pleasant Hill, maybe? They're pretty close. And Oak Creek, of course. Cynthia is amazing. She's a great partner. Sheila Kless does plant sales for us with discounts that she doesn't give other people, and that's lovely. Mount Pisgah has native plant sales twice a year in the fall and spring, so keep your ears open for that. So if you want your garden to benefit wildlife and pollinators, we can be the stepping stones. We can heal nature 1 yard at a time. And if you want to sign up, there is another QR code. There's also one in the back. There are some materials over on the side over there. And I also wanted to let you know, before I take questions, in case I forget, we are looking for board members and volunteers. And there are some really fun things that you can help with. They're on that sign, the whiteboard over there. If you have any HR experience in your life or financial experience, if you're a retired CPA or anything like that. And if you happen to be an expert in MailerLite, I could really use some help with that. MailerLite, it's an email service provider. So just got a bit of a learning curve. Are there any other events? Anything that I'm forgetting? Cecilia? Anything? Okay.
Take a picture of it.
Yes, you can take a picture of the board if you want. It has all the events for October on it. Okay, does anybody have any questions?
I want to know if there's going to be a possibility that someone from the group can come and look at some of the properties that a year ago we started the process and kind of give us some
Mhm.
tips.
That's a great
There's
question.
a lot of
So,
stuff out there, but it's struggling this last 2
oh,
years.
so you want a chance to see other yards?
Well, I want to do that too, but I want somebody to come and look at my yard and tell me what I'm doing wrong.
Well, sign up for the program.
I'm in the program. I was
Oh.
in the first yard.
I'm
But
sorry.
nobody has ever come back to like look and see
Oh,
what
I
you
see.
recommend.
Oh, I'm happy to come back. Okay, I'll talk to you in a few minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people are getting to that point, I think.
And since, and why don't we use the portable microphone for the people out there? You
Oh,
can use
okay.
this one
all right.
and we can get 2 mics going then, and then you won't have to repeat things.
Both have the thing for the people.
They do. They both have the little microphone on. Okay, so we'll take questions and Barbara, there you go. First of all, let's give her a one big round of applause. Yeah.
Okay, questions.
There was a slide comparing bark mulch to bark and wood chips. I didn't get that. Which one was better?
Which is better? So bark mulch is from the outside of the tree and it sheds water. It also doesn't break down very fast. Wood chips are from inside the tree and they break down and nourish the soil. And if you use it, it's really good to get thick layers, especially if you're sheet mulching. You want deep mulch. It's really more like, well, if you're sheet mulching, 6 to 8 inches is recommended. Yeah, to help get rid of the grass. And it's a great weed suppressant too. I will say that if you have wildflowers and they're in wood chips, they won't reseed.
Right.
They have to land on soil. So,
That's the problem I have with seeds, is there's really not any soil there. It's all
Oh.
chips.
yeah.
And it's,
So if you start your own seed in flats, then plant them out the following year, or sometimes that's
what I'm trying.
the only, what, yeah. Mm,
I have 2 questions for you.
yes,
One, is there a cost for your service and how much?
we do ask for $35 to $50 to cover resources and the sign that you get, which there is a sign on that side wall over there. When we initially come out, you get the restoration sign, and then if you certify, you get a metal sign and you can put your sticker on it, and it's great advertising. But that is a sliding scale, and we have helped some people who couldn't afford. So it's really up to you.
My second question then, is there room for vegetable gardens and fruit trees and berry bushes and any of this? Or
No,
do you
absolutely
discourage
not.
it?
We can't tolerate vegetables. Of course. Yeah, it's, what we try to do is find an area for you that can be like a native plant garden. And to certify it silver, you only need a little bit more than 5% of your total plantable area. So it could be a couple 100 square feet or less. And then in that area, we only ask for 50% native.
The rest
plants.
could be non-natives?
If you want to certify it silver, if you want gold, then it goes up to 15%, and for platinum, 50%. But really, if you remember that slide about the fledglings, 70% native is, it's not conceivable for most people, but that would be the ideal.
Okay, another question over here.
On the bark mulch and the wood chips, have you folks gone into composting where you work with the wood chips and other material to get the wood chips more broken down before you put them on the garden
I came from a composting background and we would never have put anything that fresh out. Everything went through a 3-year process in those concrete sides and back with no floor and no top, where it made its own heat and the heat cooked it.
Oh,
and then it broke down.
composting is amazing.
So I'm just wondering if you have investigated composting the wood chips for a couple of years and then putting it out.
It kind of does that on its own.
Speeding it up.
Yeah.
Well, yes, I think mixing it with leaves and adding some compost to it is really helpful too. But then the more stuff you add on the top, the more weeds you're going to get. So it's kind of a balancing act. It's really good, especially in the summer here with clay soil to maintain the moisture. The wood chips do a great job of that. Leaves, oh, yes.
You mentioned the Friends of Trees,
Uh-huh.
and I'm not sure if I'm thinking of the same program, but I do know the city of Eugene has a program where they help, I don't know, provide trees or something. Anyway, my concern is that I've seen in the past that a lot of those trees that they're providing are not natives. Can you say something about that?
You're right. We're kind of limited on the native trees that are going to tolerate climate change and that can be planted in an urban setting. Sometimes there are power lines they have to take into account. They're looking for drought tolerant trees. So, but I have noticed that they've planted oaks, white oaks in parking strips. So, and I think the reason is that the oak tree roots go down. They don't go out and disrupt the pavement. They go down. So where there's room, that's fantastic to see the city doing that, planting oak trees. But I've had the same question as you. I wish they would only plant natives, but at least we're getting some shade.
Yeah.
Anybody? Thank you so much, and hope you join.